So thank you for the time. First thing, some great stuff on the roadmap. The video inventory report, I think we've been hammering you guys for about 18 months on this. There's some people in the crowd who are probably one-to-one Slack channels with O'Kelly. I know one personally. So I want to talk about viewability, and we'll talk about it as the new currency. Is it the new currency, or should it kind of just be the basic desire? So we've looked long and hard at this, and working at Xaxis and working within Group M, the constant push that we have is around brand safety, quality inventory, thinking about how to eradicate fraud, etc. And viewability has been one of those things that we've really looked at for probably 18 months and trying to understand actually how we move the benchmark on this. And there's some interesting stats here. You've all seen this 50% of ad impressions are never seen. We did some analysis last year just looking at RTB inventory. And if you have a threshold of 60% viewability, only about 20% of inventory actually meets that criteria. So if you're a publisher, you've got a huge issue when it comes to monetizing when people are looking at viewability. I think we also need to get over the fact or make sure people understand what non-viewability means, because it's not necessarily intrinsically linked to fraud. There's so many factors like site prioritization, the way the site loads, etc. And I think if people don't understand that, we should really make sure that clients and marketers do understand that, because there are reasons why the supply side is still a challenge for this. Exchange Wire, this is a little bit out of date, but I couldn't find anything else more up to date. But there was a survey that said, when asking marketers, only 38% thought 70% was acceptable, and that was the maximal acceptance. It wasn't saying 100%, 70% and plus. 70% was kind of where they were happy with. And I think viewability has got to be hygiene. It shouldn't be a KPI. As we talk about all the things we're doing in the industry, we talk about fraud, we talk about brand safety, viewability, an ad should be seen. And I use my kids a little bit of sense check, so I'll tell you a really quick story. When you work in the industry, you're kind of in this echo chamber, and we all know why viewability is a challenge. Talking to my 8-year-old, trying to explain to her about viewability in a really basic view. Within about 30 seconds, she just looks at me and goes, "You're stupid." Why would you pay for something that you can't see? Nobody argues with that, right? But the kid's way of just telling you you're stupid, I don't get it, and walked away, I've lost all interest, is exactly what she did. I was like, no, there's a reason. I don't get it. I wouldn't give you any money. And, that's kind of where we should be thinking when we think about viewability, that if we're working with marketers and brands, we need to get to a point where they are absolutely comfortable with the quality, and that has to include viewability. So there's somebody in the crowd who I should really say thank you for this. This is not my wording, but I think this is absolutely spot on. If we think about any advertising, if you're going to be discovered as a brand, viewability is really the beginning of the conversation with your customer. We have to ensure that that user is seeing the ad. And if we look at the IAB definition, I don't know how many people agree with the IAB definition of 50% for 1 second. Group M have had the 100% for 1 second continuous for a while, and we'll come back to why this is important. But I think all that is confirming is that ad is being seen. I kind of almost think of it, it's like the one line on a date. You want more though. That conversation is just starting. Viewability and time should be more banter, less Tinder. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. So, just quick sense check for me. Anybody who's a trader in the room, can they quickly hold their hand up? Okay, right. So you guys all know why this sucks when you're trying to optimize. We get the amazing brief, and part of the KPI that we get is we've got a CPM and a view rate, and we need to get this on a media plan. So we're going to say, we'll make it up here, $3 CPM, and I need minimum 60% viewability. What do? I could use IS and Moat, do pre-bid segments to get the view rates. Typically, the traders will try and optimize the hell out of the campaign towards viewable impressions as they get the reports as they come through. Massive pain. As bad as this. And the other thing you do is then you go to the publishers and you talk to the publisher and say, okay, we need deals set up that are specifically set around viewability. And that's kind of how we try and optimize this. But remember the stat from one of the first slides. Just 20% of all inventory meets this criteria. There's a big challenge there if you are trying to deliver a campaign at scale. Straight away, you've got a restriction in terms of how much inventory. You've got bid inflation. The publisher is going to monetize or create a premium on that viewable impressions they're passing to you. And user reach. How do I reach users at scale if I'm discarding 20%? And that is one of the pain points when you get a real viewability campaign, if you're using this principle, that you have inefficiency in terms of optimization, operations, and your scaling the campaign really suffers. So this is Brian's crystal ball that obviously he looks at. I'm sure he does. Weirdly, we were in a meeting room yesterday and the voice of O'Kelly came in the room, just randomly. It's like, God's speaking? No, it's just O'Kelly. So AppNexus came to us with APP, or augmented line item as we were calling it back then, and the pay-per-view. And the principle here is that we worked with them saying, okay, we think this is a massive issue for us. We've got different implementations in there. We're running our own machine learning algorithms as well. We're trying to predict viewability. They said to us, well, we're working on this thing that's going to help you. Like, okay, really? Tell us what it is. So really, what they've done here is they are predicting the viewability on every impression that we're buying, and then we only pay for the impressions that actually are viewable. So if you look at that 20% that is within the threshold, we're missing on a huge opportunity. There's stuff under there that we should be bidding for, but we're not seeing and we're not bidding. So what this is allowing us to do is open up that inventory pool. It allows publishers to still monetize. Critically, it helps us scale those campaigns and that user reach, but it is taking the heavy lifting for that KPI, which realistically should not be a KPI in our view. If we're working with a performance client, do we want to be optimizing to viewability, plus a CPA goal, plus an ROI goal? Probably not, because they start conflicting. If we're working with a brand client, do we want to be optimizing to viewability, then engagement, or dwell time on site? These are all conflicting. What this has really allowed us to do is eliminate that inefficiency or time that we spend on complexity and focus actually where complexity matters. And this is where the MIQ, not media IQ, as you guys are now calling yourself, talked about it earlier, the customization. That's actually where we build the value when we're starting to talk about business outcomes to clients. This is where we want to spend our time. We don't want to spend our time on this. If we go back to Ali's pyramid, we should be pushing viewability to that bottom level. It should just be the baseline at the bottom. What we want to do is move up as quickly as possible. This has allowed us to do the scale, I'll remember in your slides, and move up to the performance angle, and that customization then comes in. So this is where we're actually spending a lot more of our time. This is just taking that complexity away from us. Everybody asked me, does it work? Well, we launched this back in November 2017. We started working with AppNexus to roll this out, and my team have worked with our markets in EMEA to do extensive training around this, extensive Q&As with them, really thinking about commercial models. And what we bottomed out was, we thought viewability, 100% viewability is absolutely where we should aim for. And some of our markets in other regions are going to be first movers, and they're only going to offer 100% viewability to clients. They think they can absolutely move quickly because there's enough scale and the efficiencies that it delivers. In some of our markets, we're working in different ways with it. So I'll give you a quick case study in a minute. But what we wanted to do was move our clients away from a CPM model and into a viewable CPM model. That is kind of the conversation we want to have. But what that means is we move to this outcome focus. Viewability is guaranteed, and we're able to totally switch our focus and deliver to those performance outcomes. It makes our lives much easier and increases the value that we give to our clients. So the obligatory case study. So the hypothesis for viewability, if we go back to, to be seen, you need to be discovered, you need to be seen. The easiest hypothesis on this is a performance campaign. So in this example, we tested VCPM buying strategies and how they affected real linear KPIs versus CPM optimization. So we layered it in on a CPC campaign, and what we saw in there, the click-through rate, we've got a better number than you. Sorry. 380% increase in CTR just by aligning viewability. The CPCs reduced by 38%, and the viewable impressions increased by 50%. So just in a performance campaign, the hypothesis holds true. From a brand client's perspective, viewability is a bit of a no-brainer that people need to see my ad. But this kind of hypothesis is just very, very clear-cut. It can be used as an incredibly strong optimization lever, but actually it says to you, you should be working on 100% viewability because it just improves performance. So time, what does that mean? Does anybody know what film this is, by the way? Did anybody actually like the film? Oh, God. You've got a geek badge, Fraser. The story is pretty cool. The film itself sucked. But the concept, for anybody else doesn't know, it's about time, and Justin Timberlake, that amazing actor that everybody knows, well known for his Oscar-winning performances. Basically, people live by time and trade with time as currency. If you think of the optimizer, the typical trader, they've pretty much got this countdown going on constantly. You almost want to reward them with an extra hour of life every time they finish campaign optimization. Notice none of the traders are laughing. But time. So what this has done, it's really unlocked a huge amount of operational efficiency for us, and it's really meant that we are focused on some incredible opportunities with our clients as we start thinking about business outcomes. The complexity that we are now able to sit down and work on a client's objectives with is just immense. You know, we've got some great examples from our Scandinavian colleagues where they're really using this to focus on other things that are driving a customer's focus. And we're using the infrastructure of APP to do that. So that customization that was talked about earlier, that's actually where we spend our time now, on that customization of the algorithm, rather than setting up thousands of lines and trying to work out what we should optimize. You know, that is where our time is being spent. The other thing it allows us to do when we think about time, and I talked about this earlier, is think about the next iteration of viewability. You know, we've been pushing really hard. Our colleagues in the Netherlands who are here somewhere did this about 2 years ago. They started thinking about time as an optimization metric. You know, that time that a user is exposed, the average creative in display is probably about 8 to 9 seconds. Go back to that 1 second in view, really doesn't get the story across. To my point earlier, you want to get more than a one-liner, you want to get a little bit more for dialogue and a banter. So that's very much what we're thinking and how we're starting to talk to those brand clients is think about that time exposed. What is the amount of time that should be the right time exposed to a creative? When does the message actually impact the consumer's behaviour? And that's very much where we're pushing through is beyond viewability. Viewability for us should be just an accepted norm. Let's move on to an important metric. Video, we're working with these guys. I know there's a couple of announcements this week in the blog. I won't tell everybody the URL, because I can't remember it. But you know, we're thinking about viewability, but obviously in markets, you guys will know, VAST versus VPaid creates a huge amount of problems in terms of that measurement. But you know, we're working with these guys on scale and when that can be actioned, because that is definitely where we need to move next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think for me, the most interesting part of that was listening to how you've really pushed viewability down the pyramid from performance to scale, and then giving your team that edge, that time edge to really build on what's higher up in the pyramid. So really briefly, just want to quickly talk about what's next. So Anand already touched on this, he stole my thunder slightly, but we've got a format display, so kind of thinking about viewability, if we want everything an ad to be viewable, we focused on display first, but kind of all ads should be viewable. So we've released this week an announcement that we are now enabling video views as a currency within the AppNexus programmable platform. So you can buy only on video views, which I think is just another step towards having viewability kind of as that baseline within the ecosystem. Viewability measurement as well. So we know that AppNexus provides kind of the Alenti viewability measurement for free. It drives a lot of our algorithms for predicting viewability, but we also recognize that there are lots of other viewability vendors out there in the space that your clients ask to see the reports on. So we're introducing support for Moat and then others directly within Console 2. And then we have the standard MRC definition, and we're also going to be looking to invest in other custom definitions as well. So maybe for Anand's daughter, like in view for 10 seconds minimum. But I think that's a little bit far off and maybe pie in the sky thinking, but we're looking at that as well. And I just wanted to actually touch on the kind of the discussion with your daughter. So your 8-year-old daughter agrees with a brand manager at a large UK FMCG company, which is if an impression is not viewable, then is it an impression at all? I kind of think of if a tree falls in a forest and no one's there, does anyone hear it? Kind of that sort of thing. So this is what we're really thinking of as we move the programmable platform forward, and encouraging you all to try out buying on Views to really get those KPIs being actually KPIs that you should actually be thinking about with viewability as table stakes.